Acts chapter 16, the prison of St. Paul where I'm standing. Let me read to you starting in verse 16. Now it happened as we went to prayer that a certain slave girl possessed with a spirit of divination. Now in my Bible I have divination circled. The actual Greek word there is with a python, like a python snake. That was what in the ancient world they called the demons from Delphi. This girl had been trained at Delphi. Do you remember our lesson at Delphi, the Delphian oracle? This was an occultic medium, witchcraft, seance, witchcraft fortune teller. That's what Paul was being followed by, this girl with a spirit of divination who met us, who brought her master much profit by fortune telling. And the girl followed Paul and us and cried out, saying, "These men are the servants of the Most High God, who proclaim to us the way of salvation." Now, what she was saying was true, but this was an example of Satan trying to infiltrate the church. If he can't beat them, he joins them and tries to destroy them from within. And so Paul, it says in verse 18, was greatly annoyed, for she did this many days. And he turned aside and said to the spirit, notice, not the girl. She was just the container. The spirit was inside of her. So Paul said to the spirit, "I command you in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her." And he came out that very hour. But when her masters saw that their hope of profit was gone, they seized Paul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace to the authorities. Over here, we're going to go through the marketplace, the forum, the agora. This is the prison that Paul ends up in. But what's fascinating is that word dragged is the same word that's used when Paul was dragging Christians to prison. I wonder if Paul even was thinking of that as he was being forcibly dragged off, just like he had done with the church before he had come to Christ. And they brought them to the magistrates, verse 20. And said, "These men, being Jews, exceedingly trouble our city, and they teach customs which are not lawful for us, being Romans, to receive and observe." And they were correct. Legally, there was no religion allowed except for emperor worship and any smaller group that was approved. Judaism was approved, Christianity wasn't. And the multitude, verse 22, rose against them, and the magistrates tore off their clothes, commanded them to be beaten with rods, verse 23. And when they laid many stripes on them, they threw them into prison, commanding the jailer to keep them securely. And that's where we're standing. You know the rest of the story. It was during the night as they were singing. By the way, in this prison with their swords, the archaeologists have found the stocks were meant to spread your legs as far apart as possible to cause cramping and excruciating pain. There was a bar put and then your hands put out so that you were basically pushed and straining like this and wide-legged to maximize the pain. What happened to Paul and Silas? They were singing. Do you remember what we learned when we started this course? Joy is a byproduct of the Spirit. It's a supernatural detachment from our circumstances. Most of us, if our circumstances are good, we're happy. If they're down here, we're sad. Joy, supernatural joy, gives us that complete peace and stability that's divine. And that's what Paul experienced. What did he do? He sang. And from that, the other prisoners heard, and the Philippian jailer, when the earthquake shook, came and fell at Paul's feet and said, "What must I do to be saved?" What a blessing to see God at work right in this prison, right off the forum, right here in Philippi, right here in Acts 16 on Paul's second missionary journey. My prayer for you, let the Spirit of God detach you from your circumstances and give you divine, wonderful peace of God that passes understanding, joy that only comes when God detaches us from living for the moment and living like we saw in the theater as citizens of heaven.